My guest today is Jacqui Yu. Now, she's been on the show once before as part of a group. So it's nice today to say that she's going to be here on her own. Welcome to Small Talk.
Any and all are welcome here to come and chat with me.
Hi, everyone. Well, I'm really pleased to welcome back to the show. My guest has been on once before with a group of women, Jacqui Yu. Jacqui, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Now, you're in England, I believe, right?
I am indeed. I'm in the northeast of England.
So it's nice to be able to, with Zoom, that we're able to do this for sure. So now I know by your bio that you said that you had a conventional successful life, but you felt that something was missing, right?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, isn't it? Like we're sort of sold this ideal of what a successful life looks like. So we sort of spend our early years striving to attain that.
Right.
And then you find yourself in the big house with the perfect family and the job and everything. And you're like, it's just not doing it for you anymore.
Yeah, it's almost like,
there's that sort of like, well, I've got where I wanted to get.
Right.
So time for a reinvention, I believe.
And you also had a pivotal moment, right? Something that caused a great change in your life, I believe.
Yeah, my younger brother, my only sibling, died of dropped down dead of a heart attack. Wow. In 2014, and that really made me question what life is all about. And so since 2014, I have basically reinvented myself, or redesigned my life, and just created a life that I love, really love, because life is too short, you know, and I truly believe it's for enjoying. So you know, and I found that when you follow your bliss or follow your joy, as you know, as Pollyanna-ish as that might sound, it actually works, because it's almost like, I like to call it the divine, the universe, God, whatever. It sort of contrives to help you. Mm-hmm. So I feel it almost says like, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, so I'll take care of the rest.
That's nice. Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. So let's go back a little bit and talk about what you were doing prior, and then this transformation that took place.
Okay, well, prior to this, I mean, I don't know how far back you want to go, but I started off, I got a chemistry degree from Imperial College in London, which is like the University of London. And from there I went, because, you know, at 21, who knows what they want to do?
Yeah.
So I thought, I went and said, I'm going to go and do accountancy, because my father was an accountant. And I just thought it would give me some breathing space while I worked out what I really wanted to do when I was grown up. So, it's, you know, it's all about keeping your options open. So I did accountancy. I trained with Arthur Young, which is now part of Ernst & Young, one of the big accountancy firms. And I worked in their business services group, which is basically, the idea was we worked with entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, and we were almost like their finance department. And the idea was that we would then cultivate them, and then when they were sort of big enough, we would then pass them on to main audit. So my early working life was basically working in startups. So I did that, qualified. Then I went and worked for a startup. And again, we like amazing times. I think basically turnover exploded from £20,000 to £20 million overnight.
Wow.
So there was a huge exercise of putting the systems in, and like, you know, cutting my teeth on managing big teams and huge teams of temps and stuff. So, right, a really exciting time. But really, we were firefighting the whole time. And then I was made redundant from that. So I then think, well, what am I going to do? And I looked at other jobs and things. And actually, it was the catalyst for me to go self-employed, because I actually went and worked in my father's practice and then eventually took it over. And I now look at what we would all consider traumatic events. I now consider those as wake-up calls. Mm-hmm. Wake-up calls to really sort of re-examine what you're doing. And they have actually normally change the trajectory of my life,
Right.
because I'm not sure that I would have ever gone self-employed had it not been for being made redundant. So worked in my father's practice for a while, and then like I said, I took it over, and then did the conventional, got married, you know, had two children, did all of that, and then I don't know if looking back it was postnatal depression, but
Okay.
it's like a real slump after my second child, and I sort of fell into network marketing, and just loved, because it's all about personal development, isn't it? And the high vibrational, you know, and I was introduced to the concept of passive income. So it's just like, I think that was probably about 15, 16 years ago. And I just thought, you know what, I want to be in a position that when my girls have both go off to university, I would like to be in a position where I could be anywhere in the world. And as long as I had enough money to fly the girls out whenever they wanted to come, that works for me.
Right.
So that was basically, that's no idea how I was going to do it. But that was like my driving motivation. And probably achieved that maybe 5-6 years ago. So my youngest is about to go off to university later on this year. So the world's my oyster. You know,
Nice.
Time to sort of, I don't know, all change again.
Right.
So that's basically where I am now. And like I said, I have, and just really, I think there's so many people that in some ways suffer unnecessarily in the world.
Yeah.
So it's really to sort of say there is another way, you know, that my message is life is meant to be joyful, and really sort of helping people have the courage to take that leap of faith.
Yeah.
And to take that change, because I think so many of us know that like, the old way doesn't really work anymore, or it's not giving us the happiness and fulfillment that we're all here to experience.
Right. And they're often afraid, right? Afraid to take that step, as you said. So that's where you come in, right?
That's where, yeah, I'm like, you know, let me believe in you and be your confidence and belief until you've got that for yourself.
Right.
Because it's just always easier, and it's just more enjoyable if there's somebody to do it with, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think so too. I also want to touch on the fact that you've sort of melded, is that the word I want? Cultures, ancient culture.
Right. Yeah. Well, I sort of went, because basically I went back to basics, because one of the things I did early on was I when I was working in London, it was quite stressful. So I started doing yoga. So probably started doing yoga about 30 years ago or something. And then I got my yoga practice, got to a stage when I thought I really wanted to move it on, but I wasn't sure how I was going to do that. So I ended up basically trained to be a British Wheel of yoga teacher. So I did the training to become a yoga teacher. And it was one of those things, you know, because I think another thing that people are sort of holds people back is it's never the right time.
Yes.
You know, it's never the right time. Whereas I'm sort of like, make it the right time, because once you make that decision and you commit to something, it happens. So if you wait until you're free to have a holiday, it never happens. But if you put the holiday in the diary, then it happens. So I was like, oh, well, you know, I fancy being a yoga teacher, but I'm not sure. And I thought, you know, like, there's no better time than now. So I actually signed up to do a 3-year yoga teacher training. And in that 3 years, I got engaged, I got married, I spent 6 months in Japan, and I had my first child, right, as well as going self-employed. So I'm a real sort of like, just start. Yeah. You know, it will be revealed to you. So because of that, obviously I studied quite a lot of the old scriptures, like the old ancient Indian Vedic structures, instructions and stuff. And then I am Chinese by birth, so I've always had that. I had a traditional Chinese grandma, so you know, it was all about the ancestors and doing the right thing and being true to yourself, and you know, I suppose ritual and tradition. And believing there was a higher power. And I think even as a little girl, I always used to think, well, God sits here and Father Christmas sits here. and they, because they were sort of like, they were the nice people in life.
Right.
And I think that sort of, in some ways, that willing suspension of disbelief, the whole, yes, ancient traditions, because I think there's a lot to learn and a lot from the indigenous cultures as well. And it's always fascinated me. But so has stuff like astrology and I Ching and tarot. And so I like to mix it all together. Okay. And take the bits that suit me, because I think there's so much information out there, but part of the trick is what will work for me.
Right.
Be discerning, like try things, experiment, and things will resonate, things won't. And obviously we live in a modern, but also I just love the whole, just the downright magic of it all. Do you know, like there's something mystical, it's something you can't explain it, but it's just like, you just open yourself up to it and it just flows in. It
flows, exactly. I was thinking that word, it flows. Yeah. I like that very much, because I totally agree with so much of what you're saying, So now how do you, like in what you're doing today, like whatever your position is or what you're doing, how do you incorporate all of those things in your day-to-day life or your day-to-day career? Or do you?
I suppose I spend a lot of time contemplating or considering and questioning. And I think probably one of the most important things for me, I don't know if you've ever come across the concept of an hour of power.
No, I don't. So
it's a concept I came across maybe 5-6 years ago, and it was introduced to me by a guy called Eben Pagan, and he talks about this hour of power, and it's basically the first hour of your day to set you up for the day. Okay. So he recommends like 20 minutes of, I think, meditation, 20 minutes of exercise, and 20 minutes of something that you love. And then once you get that out of the way, that it just sets you up for the day. And I would say meditation has probably been the single biggest tool that I use that has been the most beneficial to me. So I've probably been meditating daily for about 10 years or so now.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I also do a set of exercises called the Tibetan Rites, and also I've incorporated some hip exercises because I'm at that age where my hips are giving me a bit of jip. So I do that, and then basically read or whatever. So I would just say meditation for me, and what I've noticed in the last probably 1.5 to 2 years is in some ways meditation, and I read an interpretation this week which basically says something like, in meditation we open ourselves, in meditation we recognize and open ourselves up to a higher power. So my meditation, I do it first thing in the morning, and it's sort of like, it's pretty sacred. I miss it very rarely, and when I do, I incorporate it later in the day. So it's normally things like, well, pre-COVID, if I had an early flight, I would do it once I got to the boarding gate, because once you got to the boarding gate, you're all right. Yeah. But recently, because of that's where I sort of, if you like, I get my inspiration or ideas pop into my head. I now consider that meditation time quite sacred, because I feel like that's when I communicate with the divine. Or that's, so sometimes it's a bit like, I think it's Rhonda Byrne's The Magic. She has this concept, use the divine as your PA. So, you state your intention, and then you just wait to see how they're going to present it. What exciting way are you going to present this? This is going to be great. So it's partly, it's like setting intentions. This is what I'm trying to do, and asking for help or guidance. And then other times I just get ideas that that for me to act on. So then they know that that's like I'm being given the instruction. This is what you need to do. So then I do. So in some ways, I suppose it's like a bit like if you were, when you're working with a team. And you do your daily briefing. This is what we're going to do today. This is, this is where we're up to. This is where we're going. But I do it with the divine or my higher self. And And I just love that whole concept of co-creating, and the fact that they just give me what I need. So I put a couple of courses together last year, and I was doing Deepak Chopra and Oprah meditations. We do these 21-day meditations, so I was doing those, and the number of times I got a message from one of their meditations. So I'm like, how fantastic is that to have Deepak Chopra and Oprah on your creative team? I mean, do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
so like, saying, like with Zoom and the internet,
Right.
we have access to practically everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So I want to switch it up a little bit. Now, let's just say I decided I want to do whatever it is, maybe this talk show, like, let's say I wasn't doing it. Okay. But I've always wanted to do it, but I don't know. I'm kind of afraid. And I contact you and say, okay, this is what I want to do, but I don't know if it's right for me. I don't know if I should be doing. So I've got all of these fears and, so what would you give me?
I would say to you, deep down, you know what you want. You know deep down what you want. And it's listening to that voice and having the courage to listen to that voice. And what happens is, well, we know, but we've been conditioned or conformed, or we're afraid of what people might say or think.
Yeah.
And I'm a very much a sort of like, what you want. So maybe it's a bit of mindset in terms of like, you need to be able to trust yourself. It's that inner trust, you need to be able to trust that. I truly believe we're all spiritual beings here having a human experience, and that we're all here to, if you like, raise the consciousness, like individually and collectively, to do things that we can't do when we're in non-physical form.
Right.
So it's almost like we have a mission, and when you're on mission, you're on mission. When you're fulfilling your purpose, you feel it. It's easy.
Yes.
It's so it's easy, it flows, I don't know, it's just so much more enjoyable. It's just like a much better way to live. And so I'm just, most of the time we just get in our own way.
Yes,
of what we're thinking. So I'm like, what are you thinking? Why are you thinking that? Is it true? Let's examine it.
Right.
And one of my big things is like stinking thinking. So once you become aware of that, you stinking thinking, then you can do something about it, because it's all about awareness, isn't it? Like,
yes.
What are we telling ourselves?
Yeah.
And then we make stories up all the time. We make stories up all the time of what happened. Every event that ever happens is neutral. It's us that filters it through our lens to make it good or bad. So my big thing is, if you're going to make up a story that serves you, not a story that beats you up.
Right.
And then the other thing is obviously get into action, because once you start doing things and it starts working out and you get that feeling, you just want to keep doing it.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of
open yourself up.
Yeah.
To the abundance.
One of the things, like I'm a person who's learned things much later on in life. I for whatever reason there is, believing in myself, all of that. I'm 73 years old, so I've only been doing this for like, say, 6 years or so. One of the things I've just come to realize, again, because I'm a slow learner or a late learner, is that when you live a good life, whatever that means, life becomes good, right? So it's all that same concept of what you're saying, because you're opening yourself up to a different kind of world in a way. And I think
it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes.
So what you think or you expect, that is what you will get. What you focus on is what you will get. And I would say, I think especially for women, I once read that between your mid-40s and your mid-50s, you either become more of a caricature of who you are. So you get like these bitter old women, miserable old men, or you reinvent yourself. Right. And I would say, for me personally, I don't think until you probably maybe in your mid-40s that women have the confidence to be themselves. Yeah. Because we're so busy trying to prove ourselves or being there for other people or people pleasing. I mean, how much people pleasing do we do?
Yeah.
keep
Yes.
the peace. And I actually think that, whereas the big revelation for me is to be your true, authentic self, to let your sublime, divine essence shine through. That is the greatest gift you can give to yourself, to those you love and care about, and indeed the world. And I would then say to you, my father is 88. He had his stroke on his 87th birthday. But he came home from that, and he is like a 6-year-old. He has that joy of a 6-year-old. Because I would say if we can maintain that childlike wonder and awe, because we arrive as chuckling, joyous babies, do we not?
Yeah.
We know when we arrive, we know what life's all about.
Yeah.
But it gets educated and conditioned and trained out of us. And we conform because society, and especially as maybe for our generation, it's like, to be a good girl. Yeah. That wasn't to make a fuss. That wasn't to sort of state, well, this is what I need, this is what I want. But I actually think when you get what you need, what you want, when you have the confidence to do that, do you not give of your best to everybody else?
For sure. Yeah.
And again, I'm a bit sort of like, well, I've got 2 girls. I want to be a fairly decent role model to them. I want them to believe they can have anything. I want them to go for it.
Right.
And, age is just a number.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
It's just like, again, what are we telling ourselves?
Yep.
I mean, is it not, how lucky are we to have had that revelation and to actually be able to live it? Because so many people don't. Right.
It's so, it has such an impact on my mind because I come from a very large family, and one of my brothers said to me, of all of us, he finds that I've changed the most. And I said, I'm just starting to be the person who I was meant to be, and I think that a lot of people are stuck, as you say, they're stuck. They're just stuck here and don't know how to be, just don't know how to be.
And that's the sort of thing, isn't it? Because I think for me, the only 2 things that really matter are how you feel.
Yep.
And when you're when you're being yourself, you're your happiest.
Yes.
You're most joyful.
Right.
And what your results are. And when you're happy and joyful, guess what? Your results are pretty damn good too. You know what I mean? So it's like,
absolutely.
It's a bit of a catch-22. It's like, I think so often we have it the wrong way around.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I have this, I'll be happy. When I've lost the weight, I'll be happy. When I get this, but actually, no, be happy now.
Yeah, happy now. Right.
It'll come as a side effect.
Right. Well, on that note, I like that. Be happy now. That's where we're going to end it. Okay. So I just want to thank you for being here. And I want to thank the audience too for tuning in. And I hope you took in a lot of what that Jacqui had to say, and you can contact, I'm going to provide her information. So thanks again for watching the show, and take care and peace out, everybody.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.